بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في محاضرة اليوم سوف نتكلم عن الكتاب الأمريكيين الفترة الرومانسية. American writers, the Romantic era from 1830 up to 1870. From 1830 up to 1870. The first one is Edgar Allan Poe. He is best known for his poems, short fiction. He was the father of modern mystery. Additionally, Poe has had a worldwide influence on literature. So when we come to the Romantics, we think of Edgar Allan Poe, and he is best known for his poems, short fiction, and short stories. He was the father of the modern American short story, and Poe has had a worldwide influence on literature. They were affected by the Romantic movement in Britain. إذا إدغار ألان بو معروف بأشعاره وقصصه القصيرة، هو أب القصة القصيرة الأمريكية الحديثة، وكان له تأثير كبير على الأدب في العالم، وتأثر مع أقرانه بالحركة الرومانسية في بريطانيا وأوروبا من عام 1800 حتى عام 1830. لو لاحظنا أن الحركة الرومانسية بدأت هنا متأخرة نوعا ما 1830 حتى عام 1870. Other character, important romantic novelist, Nathaniel Hawthome. He is a renowned author from Salem, who was known for his works of dark romanticism. Hawthorne was a supporter of creating a balance between romanticism and transcendentalism. The works by Hawthorne, Scarlet Letter, House of the Seven Gables, The Blaisdell Romance, The Marble Faun, and Fan Show published in the Muslim. So the Hawthorne was known for his works of dark romanticism. He was supporting the balance between romanticism and transcendentalism, and he is known also for his important novel, The Scarlet Letter. And we know well that the transcendentalism is a part of romanticism. They deviated away from the Puritan way of life. They deviated away and moved away from reading religious textbooks and started focusing more on individual imagination, nature, and idealism. إذا ناتاليان هوثورن هو واحد من الكتاب الرومانسيين، وهو مشهور بالرومانسية السوداء، وهو كان مؤيد خلق توازن بين الرومانسية والمتسامين. لقد ولد في عام 1804 وتوفى في عام 1864. من أهم أعماله الحرف القرمزي The Scarlet Letter عام 1850. لقد مثلت فيلم، وهي من الروايات الشهيرة وعلامة من علامات الأدب الأمريكي. الرومانسية تركز على الطبيعة، على الخيال، على الفرد، على طبعا على المثالية، وتقول أن الفرد يستطيع أن يعتمد على نفسه ولا يحتاج إلى وصاية دينية كما كان يدعي البريطانيون، ولا يحتاج إلى وصاية من المؤسسات. ومن هنا بدأ الجانب الفردي في المجتمعات الأمريكية والغربية. نأتي للشق الآخر، وهو American writers, the naturalist and the realistic era. When we talk about the naturalist and the realistic era, we talk about late 1800, and here we talk about realism, we talk about naturalism. So we have to focus on two important writers, Mark Twain. Mark Twain, he was known as Samuel Clemens. Samuel Clemens was born in Florida on November 30, 1835, and he was known by his pen name, Mark Twain. He was um, he was an American author and a humorist. He wrote novels, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and after his death, he was called as the greatest American humorist of the age and the father of the American literature. Mark Twain was a remarkable writer, journalist, and humorist and pamphleteer. He wrote novels and adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the adventures of Tom Sawyer. In America, they adore and like him so much. He described in detail the American way of life, and through his humorous style, he was close to the heart of American readers. They call him the father of American literature. إذا مارك توين وهو من الكتاب المهمين الطبيعيين الواقعيين، وهو مواليد فلوريدا، وكتب روايتين مهمات جدا واللي هم مغامرات توم سواير ومغامرات فين. وبعد موته كان يطلق عليه أفضل كاتب ساخر في الأدب الأمريكي، ويطلق عليه أب الأدب الأمريكي. Then we go to another one who is Stephen Crane. Stephen Crane is another naturalist and realistic writer. The eighth surviving child, Crane began writing at the age of 4 and published several articles by the age of 16. Stylistically, Crane's writing is characterized by vivid intensity, distinctive dialects, and irony. Common themes involve fear, spiritual crises, and social isolation. He won international acclaim for his 1895 Civil War novel, The Red Badge of Courage, which he wrote without any battle experience, plagued by financial difficulties and ill health. Crane died of tuberculosis in a Black Forest sanatorium at the age of 28. So Crane was a naturalist, American writer, and he published several articles. His style is known by vivid intensity, great details, and distinctive dialects and irony, and he focused on fear, the consequences of the American Civil War, social isolation, and spiritual crises, which are normal and natural results of the war. He won the international acclaim for his great Civil War novel, The Red Badge of Courage. He was afflicted by financial difficulties and ill health till he died at the age of 28 as a young writer. إذا ستيفن كرين وهو من الكتاب الأمريكيين الطبيعيين، بدأ بالكتابة مبكرا. تتميز كتاباته بالقوة العاطفية واللهجات المحلية والسخرية. تتناول الروايات موضوعات مثل الخوف، الأزمات الروحانية، والعزل والانفصال الاجتماعي، وآثار الحرب الأمريكية الأهلية التي خلفت أكثر من مليون قتيل وجريح، غير الجروح النفسية والمادية اللي عانى منها الشعب الأمريكي. لقد حاز على اهتمام ومدح العالم عندما كتب روايته الشهيرة والتي تتكلم عن الحرب الأهلية الأمريكية، الشارة الحمراء للشجاعة، والذي كتبها بدون أي خبرة سابقة عسكريا أو بدون أي انخراط في الحرب الأهلية الأمريكية. في أواخر حياتي طبعا أصيب بالأمراض الكثيرة وعانى من مشاكل مالية، ثم توفى بمرض السل عن عمر يناهز 28 عام، وكان صغير في السن في ذلك الوقت. هذا هو ستيفن كرين. كتب قصة قصيرة أيضا ودرسنا له قبل هيك an episode of war للدفعات السابقة. Another naturalist and realistic writer, popularity and the critics, Harriet Stowe. As a result of the popularity of Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet spoke about emancipation of all over North America and Europe. Her southern critics were harsh and in defense of her publication. Harriet wrote The Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1853. So this novel raise the consciousness of American people that this is the right time to emancipate the black and to end slavery and to end slavery. And when she wrote that novel, she expressed about the opinion of millions of Americans, especially who lived in the North and who saw that black slavery is an inhuman act which should stop. So, so there were many critics from the South who wrote against the book, against her novel, and they don't want slaves to be freed. And we also discussed that in the American Civil War and before the American Civil War and the causes of the American Civil War. So her novel was important in raising consciousness of the urgent need to end slavery. She was outspoken critic of slavery, and she spoke about the need to emancipate slaves all over North America and Europe. إذا هارت ستو ومن الكتاب الواقعيين الطبيعيين لقد تكلمت عن أهمية تعرير العبيد في أمريكا الشمالية وأوروبا. كتبت روايتها الشهيرة كوخ العم توم، والتي هي كانت تدافع عن حق السود في الحرية، وأن هذا العمل اللا إنساني يجب أن يتوقف. وهذا أدى إلى تؤثر الشعب الأمريكي، ومن هنا كانت البدايات وبذور أن التحرير العبيد حاجة ماسة، وكانت هي الهدف الأساسي في انتخابات أبراهام لينكولن. وبنعرف احنا شو صار بعدين في انفصال الولايات الجنوبية وإعلانها التمرد والانقلاب على أمريكا والولايات الشمالية. American writers of the 20th century. Then we come now to the 20th century, and we have our writer William Faulkner. William Faulkner, we have The Sound and the Fury, and As I Lay Dying, much critically praised, not commercially successful. For the rest of his life, Faulkner made his living as a writer of fiction, Hollywood screenplays. His most accomplished works in the 1930s and 1940s, like in August, Absalom, the Hamlet, and Go Down Moses. Faulkner received the Nobel Prize for Literature. During the last 10 years of his life, he traveled, lectured, and became an outspoken critic of segregation. In 1962, after years of drinking and a succession of physical problems, he died in Mississippi. So he wrote his important novel, The Sound and the Fury, and as I lay dying. He was a journalist, he was a writer, he was who also wrote screenplays for Hollywood. Faulkner received the 1949 Nobel Prize for Literature. During the last 10 years of his life, he traveled, lectured, and spoke against slavery and spoke against against the racial segregation and Jim Crow laws. And he died after succession of physical and health problems. William Faulkner's major works, The Sound and the Fury, As I Lay Dying, Later August, Absalom, short fiction. We have a Rose for Emily, which I teach to my students these days. Dry September, that evening sun turn burning. إذا هنا كانت هي روايات لويليام فوكنر الصوت والصخب ووردة إلى إيميلي. وهنا تكلمنا أن ويليام فوكنر كتب روايته الشهيرة الصوت والصخب، وكان كاتب وصحفي ويكتب السيناريو للأفلام في هوليوود. لقد حاز على جائزة نوبل في عام 1949، وقضى السنوات العشر الأخيرة من حياته مسافرا ومتنقلا بين الولايات الأمريكية ليتكلم عن أهمية تحرير العبيد وإلغاء الإجراءات الفصل العنصري بين السود والبيض، واللي كانت تسمى في ذلك الوقت قوانين جيم كرو. We have another 20th century writer, John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck was born in February 27, 1902. His parents were John Steinbeck and Olive Hamilton. Steinbeck was born with German-American, Irish-American descent. During his summers, he worked on the nearby ranches, building his impressions of the California countryside and its people. So when we talk about California, when we talk about California, we talk about a large state and where most of the people of California came from Latin roots, and he saw the suffering of people in the countryside and the condition of the farmers. So he spoke about their experiences. إذا جون ستينبيك هو مواليد كاليفورنيا، وهو من أصول ألمانية إيرلندية. لقد عاش وعمل في المزارع واقترب من الفلاحين واطلع على أوضاعهم في الريف ونقل معاناتهم إلى العالم من خلال كتابة رواياته الشهيرة وخاصة عناقيد الغضب. John Steinbeck is one of the most popular and well-known novelists. In 1929, he published his first novel, Cup of Gold, but received very little attention from readers. He is well known for his novel, The Grapes of Wrath, in 1939, which also won the Pulitzer Prize. The Pair of Mice and Men were also very popular. He explored many different themes with different views and a social protest writer, a journalist, a naturalist, a realist, and a playwright. So he explored many different ideas. He was a social protest writer, journalist, a naturalist, a realist, and a playwright. So we have one of the most important American writers, John Steinbeck, in the 20th century. إذا هو كتب روايته الأولى Cup of Gold، وكتب روايته الشهيرة عناقيد الغضب، والذي فاز من ورائها على أفضل جائزة لأفضل روائي. وكانت رواياته تتكلم عن مواضيع مختلفة، مواضيع اجتماعية تتعلق بالإنسان والطبقة المهمشة المسحوقة. هو كان كاتب وصحفي وواقعي ومسرحي. ثم نأتي إلى الكاتب الأفريقي جيمس بالدوين. James Baldwin, born August 2, 1924, died December 1987, born in Harlem in New York. Baldwin was an accomplished novelist, poet, playwright. Subject matter usually revolved around race, sex, class issues within the 20th century, established a reputation as a critic of social issues. All art is a kind of confession. For him, all art is a kind of confession and telling people about the sufferings and the problems of the other. He talked about sex, about the class, and he talked about important issues of the 20th century. He talked about the suffering of the Negro and what does it mean to be a Negro. So he was an accomplished writer, means that he's a novelist, a poet, a playwright, means that he does everything. إذا نتكلم عن الكاتب الأمريكي الشهير الأفريقي وهو جيمس بالدوين، والذي كان روائي ومسرحي وشاعر، وكتب عن العرق وكتب عن الجنس وكتب عن الطبقة وكتب عن الصراع العرقي بين السود وبين البيض، وكتب عن مواضيع اجتماعية كثيرة، وكان يقول أن الأدب هو عبارة عن اعتراف ونقل هموم الناس إلى العالم والمجتمع. Major works of James Baldwin: Go Till It on the Mountain, North of the Native Sun, Jafia the Room, Nobody Knows My Name, Another Country, The Fire Next Time. I read most of his work and I advise you to read The Fire Next Time, Another Country, Nobody Knows My Name, and slowly I will include James Baldwin in our course, the American literature. I, I like to teach my students more about that social critic, important voice in the American literature, James Baldwin. Then we have another American African writer, Richard Wright. He was born in 1908 and 1960. Richard Wright lived in the North, left the South, moved to Chicago, joined the John Reed Club set by the Communist Party, fell into communism in 1932. In 1936, served as a literary advisor and press agent for the Negro Federal Theater. So he was a communist writer and he left the South and moved to Chicago. إذا ريتشارد رايت من الكتاب الأفريقيين الأمريكيين المهمين، انتقل إلى شيكاغو وانضم إلى الحزب الشيوعي، وكان يعمل كمستشار أدبي ومسؤول عن المسرح الفيدرالي الأسود. What about the works of Richard Wright? Uncle to the Children, for Novella, Native Son is an important work for him. The Outsider, Savage Holiday, Long Dream, Lord Today, Uncle Thomas Children, Five Long Stories. You can find his work on Google if you Google it. يعني أعماله ابن البلد، وهذا من الأعمال الشهيرة لريتشارد رايت. Native Son, Savage Holiday, The Long Dream, and أطفال العم توم for novellas in 1938. Another important writer is Ernest Hemingway. He is a member of the Lost Generation writers. He was very critical of capitalism. He was expatriate, served in ambulance corps in the First World War. So we have a complete lecture about Ernest Hemingway on the channel. You can watch it. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954, The Torrents of Spring, most important novel, The Sun Also Rises, A Farewell to Arms, To Have and Have Not, To Whom the Bells Toll. And we have also The Old Man and the Sea, which won him the Nobel Prize. We have also Adventures of the Young Man, Islands of a Stream, and The Gardens of Eden. Ernest Hemingway was exceptional and realistic novelist, and he was very important writer, known for his short style, short sentences, and crisp description. He wrote The Old Man and the Sea, A Farewell to Arms, The Sun Also Rises, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I teach my students in the course of American literature a clean, well-lighted cafe for Ernest Hemingway. He talks about old age, problems of old age, alienation, isolation, and thinking of committing suicide. Unfortunately, it was predicting his end. So Ernest Hemingway committed suicide and ended his life after failing to endure and bear succession of physical and health problems. إذا أرنست هيمنجواي من الكتاب الأمريكيين الوجوديين، وهو كان ينتقد النظام الرأسمالي. كتب روايات شهيرة: The Sun also rises, A Farewell to Arms, For Whom the Bell Tolls, The Old Man and the Sea, The Old Man الرجل العجوز والبحر. وهذه هي النوفيلا التي أكسبته جائزة نوبل للآداب. طبعا في محاضرة كاملة وعن أعماله موجودة على القناة، لأنه أنا بدرسه لطلابي في مشروع الأدب الأمريكي. We have another African writer, Alice Walker. In 1983, she wrote important novel, The Color Purple, won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, making Walker the first Black woman to win. Walker was also the first Black woman to win the National Book Award. She was important African American voice, and she won the Pulitzer Booker Prize. Some of her books, most important work, The Color Purple, it was acted, I think, a movie, and Winifred Oprah acted in that movie. Why War is Never a Good Idea, Meridian, and Temple of My Familiar. هذه أعمال أليس ووكر، والذي فازت بجائزة أفضل روائية وروائي على عملها الأدبي اللون البنفسجي، The Color Purple. Then we have Harper Lee. Harper Lee, where she was born in April 1946. She is still alive, age 86, and the youngest of the children. She is an introvert person. She doesn't like, to mix a lot with people. So we have Harper Lee. She wrote an important novel which won her a Pulitzer Prize, To Kill a Mockingbird. She won many awards. In college, she was a member of Literary Honor Club, and she was the editor of the school newspaper in college. And her one and only book was made into a movie. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. Atax Finch won the Best Actor Award. You can watch the movie, you can read the novel. It is an important novel about the relationship between black and white during segregation in the South and during the application of Jim Crow laws. هنا الرواية مهمة. تكل أموكن بير تتكلم عن العلاقة الشائكة بين السود والبيض، وعن قوانين الفصل العنصري، قوانين جيم كرو وتطبيقها في الجنوب ومعاناة السود. فكتبت هذه الرواية والتي لاقت ضجة كبيرة واستحسان في ذلك الوقت، وكانت هي روايتها الوحيدة والتي مثلت إلى فيلم، وفاز هذا الفيلم بجوائز كثيرة. وحتى الممثل أتكس فنش فاز بجائزة أفضل ممثل. ممكن قراءة الرواية ومشاهدة طبعا الرواية كفيلم. في نقطة مهمة: كل الروائيين الموجودين وشرحتهم أهم رواياتهم مثلت إلى أفلام، فمهم لما كنت في وقت فراغ تتفرجوا على هذه الأفلام. Margaret Mitchell, she was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1900. She was the American author of Gone with the Wind. She received the Pulitzer Prize for this novel. When she was 15, she wrote Lost Legend, which was published in 1996. So we have Margaret Mitchell, who wrote Gone with the Wind, and she won the Pulitzer Prize. ذهب مع الريح، وفازت في أفضل جائزة كروائية في ذلك الوقت. وهذه كمان مثلت فيلم شهير آه، وهو ذهب مع الريح، يمكن مشاهدته أيضا. Then we have another important novelist, Emily Dickinson, important poet, شاعرة. She was born in a Puritan family. Her father was a famous lawyer. She received college education. She lived a single life, kept single all her life. She enjoyed gardening and writing and tried to avoid visitors. And her lifestyle was similar to Jane Austen. She wrote 1,775 poems, but only 7 of them published in her lifetime. Before her death, she asked her sister to burn all her poems. Her sister published two beautiful poems. So she was born to a Puritan family, and we know in Britain they are conservative and very religious people. She lived a single life, and she spent all her life as single. She wrote 1,775 poems, and only 7 of them were published in her life. Before her death, she asked her sister to pair all the poems. Her sister published two beautiful poems after her death. إذا هي كانت تنتمي إلى طبقة بيوريتانية محافظة متدينة، عاشت حياتها عزباء وعاشت حياة بسيطة، حياتها تشبه حياة الكاتبة البريطانية جين أوستن. لقد كتبت حوالي 1775 قصيدة شعرية، 7 من القصائد فقط نشرت في أثناء حياتها. كانت وصيتها لأختها أن تحرق كل أشعارها، ولكن لم تطبق أخت هذه الوصية ونشرت هذه الأشعار الجميلة بعد مماتها لكي نتعرف على هذه الشاعرة الأمريكية الكبيرة إيميلي ديكنسون. Then we have Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison, one of the important novelists, American novelist. She wrote The Bluest Eyes, and she wrote Song of Solomon, Beloved, Jazz, Paradise, Love, and Mercy, and she won the Nobel Prize, and she was the first African woman to take and to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. And her novel, The Bluest Eyes, was remarkable. Sex, class, race, and social problems were the main focus of توني ميرسون. إذا توني ميرسون من الكاتبات الأفريقيات المهمات، فازت بجائزة نوبل للآداب. كتبت روايات مهمة مثل بيلافد وجاز وبلوز آي. الموضوعات الصراع الأرضي بين السود والبيض. ماذا يعني أن تكوني امرأة سوداء في مجتمع أبيض عنصري؟ وهذه عبرت عنها في روايتها The Bluest Eyes. تكلمت وانتقدت مواضيع اجتماعية كثيرة، وتوفت قبل فترة بسيطة هذه الكاتبة الأمريكية الرائعة توني ميرسون. Then we have Herman Melville. Herman Melville was born in New York, 1819, used to work as a crew member on boat, wrote Moby Dick in 1851, which was based on a true story. It was sold poorly. However, after his death, his work became famous worldwide. So his most important Moby Dick was based on his experience as a crew member and his love for the sea. Yes, it was sold poorly, but after his death, this work becomes one of the most important works in the world. إذا هرمان ميلفيل لقد ولد في نيويورك وكان يعمل كبحار. كتب روايته الشهيرة موبي ديك، وكانت مبنية على قصة حقيقية. نعم، لم تكن مبيعاتها موفقة، ولكن بعد موته كانت من أهم الروايات الأمريكية التي بيعت في العالم. هيك بنكون تكلمنا عن أهم الكتاب الأمريكيين. تكلمنا عن الفترات: الفترة الرومانسية، ثم الفترة الطبيعية والواقعية، ثم فترة القرن العشرين. طيب، لماذا لم نتكلم عن الفترة الكولونيالية البيوريتانية؟ لم تكن فيها كتابات تذكر، لما كنا كانت الكتابات دينية، وكانت الكتابات عبارة عن مغامرات المستكشفين لأمريكا، فلم يكن هناك عمل أدبي روائي أو شعري يرتقي لكي نتكلم عنه، وكان عبارة عن تقليد لما كتب في بريطانيا. بدأ الأدب الأمريكي يتبلور ويأخذ هوية خاصة مع بدايات الحركة الرومانسية والواقعية والطابعية والقرن العشرين. بتمنى أنكم استفدتوا من هذه المحاضرة واستمتعتوا كمان. إذا حبيتوا هذه المحاضرة تنسوش اللايك والاشتراك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.